Far beyond the stars that humans knew, there was a world full of wonder and danger. This planet, called Draconia, was home to the Dragon King, a magnificent creature whose scales shone like molten gold and whose eyes held the wisdom of centuries. The Dragon King ruled his realm with both strength and intelligence. His roar could shake mountains, and his wings could block the sun, yet he was no ordinary ruler. He had a test, one that many warriors from across the galaxies tried to pass, but none could. The Dragon King's test was not about strength or weapons. Many believed it was, and that was their first mistake. Warriors came with their sharpest swords, their fastest ships, and their bravest hearts. They wanted the honor of passing the Dragon King's test and perhaps winning a reward that legends whispered about, the Crystal of Eternity, an artifact said to hold immense power and knowledge. But the Dragon King's eyes could see far beyond brute strength. On this day, dozens of warriors gathered in the Golden Plains before the Dragon King's palace, a vast fortress carved from mountains and glittering crystals. Each warrior was more impressive than the last. There were humanoids taller than trees, aliens with shining armor that glowed under the sun, and creatures that could change shape at will. They all had heard the stories of warriors who failed before them and of the Dragon King's mighty roar that sent even the bravest fleeing in fear. Among these mighty beings, no one noticed the small figure carrying a bundle of hay along the path to the stables. This was Eli, a human boy no taller than a young tree, with messy brown hair, bright, curious eyes, and a heart full of courage. He was not a warrior. He had no sword, no armor, no training in battles or diplomacy. He was a stable boy, tasked with delivering food and supplies to the Dragon King's massive creatures. Yet, by a strange twist of fate, he was about to witness something that would change his life forever. The warriors lined up, each stepping forward, bowing before the Dragon King. His great golden eyes glimmered with amusement and curiosity as he looked over them. "Bring me your strength," the Dragon King said, his voice like rolling thunder. "Show me what you are made of." The first warrior, a giant with muscles like mountains, charged forward with his sword raised high. The Dragon King watched calmly. The warrior swung his blade, aiming for the Dragon King's chest, but before the sword could reach him, the Dragon King shifted in the air, his wings sending a gust of wind that knocked the warrior to the ground. "Strength alone is meaningless," the Dragon King said, his eyes glinting. One by one, the warriors tried. Some brought clever machines, others summoned energy blasts or magical spells, yet none succeeded. The Dragon King's test was always different. He would watch, he would judge, and then he would show them that force alone could not win. Some warriors left angry, some left in fear, and others simply walked away, ashamed. Eli, carrying his bundle of hay, hid behind a large crystal pillar near the edge of the plain. He watched silently, his eyes wide. He had never seen anything like this. The Dragon King was not only powerful but wise and unpredictable. The warrior's failures made Eli's heart race with excitement and fear. "Why do they fail?" he whispered to himself. "What are they missing?" As he entered the stables, Eli began to feed the enormous dragon steeds, creatures as big as houses, with scales of silver and eyes that seemed almost human. They nuzzled him gently, sensing his calm nature. While the warriors focused on their battles, Eli noticed small things others didn't. The Dragon King's slight smile when a warrior made a clever move but failed. The twinkle of curiosity in his golden eyes, the soft rumble of amusement when something unexpected happened. While tending to the stables, Eli overheard the whispers of a veteran warrior. "No one can pass the Dragon King's test," the warrior said bitterly. "He is ancient, he is wise. Only the cleverest of minds or the strongest of hearts could even hope to succeed. But even then, He finds a way to deny you." Eli thought about this quietly. "Cleverest of minds, strongest of hearts," he murmured. He did not have strength, but perhaps he had cleverness of another kind. Perhaps there was a way that no warrior had tried before. That evening, when the sun dipped behind the crystal mountains, Eli sneaked closer to the palace gates. He could hear the Dragon King speaking to his advisors, his deep voice echoing across the golden plains. "These warriors are impressive, yes," the Dragon King said, "but they all come seeking glory or power. They do not understand me. They do not understand the test." Eli's curiosity burned brighter than ever. He decided that he would not leave without understanding. He watched carefully, taking note of the Dragon King's movements, expressions, and reactions. He saw the moments when the Dragon King's eyes softened, when he seemed amused by small gestures, when he paused to notice the tiny details of his world. Days passed. Warriors came and went, failing the test in spectacular ways. Some challenged the Dragon King directly, yelling and swinging weapons. Some tried to trick him, using cunning or strategy. Some even tried to bribe him with treasures from across the galaxy. Each time, the Dragon King's laughter, or sometimes his calm dismissal, showed them that they misunderstood what the test required. Meanwhile, Eli continued his work in the stables. He brushed the dragon steeds, fed the winged creatures, and cleaned the golden halls, yet he paid close attention to everything happening in the palace. He learned the Dragon King's habits. He noticed the way he tilted his head when amused, the tiny flick of his claw when thinking, the rumble of his chest when he was intrigued. Eli realized something important. The Dragon King's test was not about fighting or strength. It was about understanding him, understanding the humor, the curiosity, and the heart behind the scales and claws. One morning, as Eli was leading a silver dragon colt out to the training fields, a young warrior bumped into him. "Move, boy," the warrior barked. "This is no place for children." Eli looked up calmly. "I am not here to fight," he said softly. "I only feed the creatures and learn from what I see." The warrior laughed. "Learn? From a dragon? You are a child. Go home before you get hurt." But Eli did not leave. Instead, he watched the warrior go to face the Dragon King and fail, just as every other warrior had. Eli felt a spark of hope. Maybe he did not need to be strong. Maybe he could do something no one else had done. That night, Eli sat by the stables thinking. "What makes him laugh?" he whispered. "What does he enjoy? What makes him curious?" He remembered the way the Dragon King had tilted his head at small things, how he had paused to watch tiny details in the warrior's movements. Perhaps if someone could make the Dragon King laugh, they would succeed where others failed. Eli began to experiment. He would imitate the way the Dragon King's creatures moved, the little quirks of behavior he noticed. Sometimes he would dance like the silver dragon colt. Sometimes he would try to mimic the Dragon King's roar, but softly, so it was funny rather than scary. The other stable workers laughed at him quietly, thinking the boy was foolish, but Eli continued. He felt a strange excitement in trying to connect with a creature as mighty as the Dragon King, not through force, but through understanding and humor. One morning, Eli noticed the Dragon King observing him from a high balcony. The golden eyes were fixed on the small boy, head tilted slightly, an expression of curiosity on his face. Eli froze for a moment, heart pounding. Then, taking a deep breath, he performed a small, clumsy dance while pretending to ride one of the dragon steeds like a knight. He added a silly face, and to his surprise, he heard a low, rumbling chuckle from the Dragon King. Eli's eyes widened. Could it be? The Dragon King laughed. Not in anger, not in dismissal, but a true laugh, warm and deep. Eli felt a thrill he had never experienced before. He realized that this might be his chance, not to fight, not to conquer, but to connect in a way no warrior ever had. From that day, Eli decided to prepare. He would continue his work in the stables, observe the Dragon King, and practice the small gestures that made the mighty creature laugh. He knew it would not be easy. Every warrior had tried and failed. But Eli had something they did not: a heart full of courage, a mind curious about the world, and a willingness to see the Dragon King as more than a challenge. He saw him as a being to understand. And so, while warriors planned battles, sharpened weapons, and trained endlessly, a small human stable boy began a journey that would change the future. Eli did not yet know how he would face the Dragon King directly. He did not know if he would pass the test. But he knew one thing: sometimes, even the smallest and simplest heart could stand in the shadow of a giant and make the impossible happen. As the suns of Draconia set, casting golden light over the crystal mountains, Eli looked up at the palace. His heart raced with excitement. One day he would face the Dragon King himself, not with swords, not with magic, but with laughter, cleverness, and the courage to be himself. The journey had begun, and nothing, not even centuries of warriors' failures, could stop a human boy with a curious mind and a brave heart. The days after Eli's first accidental success with the Dragon King's laugh were filled with a strange energy. The boy felt different, alive with a sense of purpose he had never known before. Every step he took in the palace grounds and the stables now carried a quiet determination. He had seen how the Dragon King's eyes glimmered when something amused or intrigued him. That moment was fleeting, yet it left a spark in Eli's heart, one he knew he had to nurture. Eli's life had been simple before. Each day he fed the dragon steeds, cleaned their stables, and carried food to the great beasts that roamed the plains. He polished scales, brushed manes, and learned to speak softly to creatures that could crush a building if startled. He had grown used to their size, strength, and intelligence, but now his life had a new purpose. He needed to understand the Dragon King, not just as a ruler or a creature of power, but as a being capable of humor, curiosity, and perhaps even friendship. The warriors still came. Each morning, Eli would peek from behind crystal pillars and watch as another group of interstellar heroes approached the palace gates. They were larger, stronger, more armored, and sometimes more arrogant than the last. They carried shining swords, strange weapons that emitted sparks or energy, and shields that gleamed like mirrors. Yet one by one, they would fail. The Dragon King's test, as ever, was different for each challenger. Some failed because they tried to fight him directly. Some failed because they sought treasure or glory instead of understanding. And some failed simply because they could not see beyond their own strength. Eli began to notice patterns in the Dragon King's reactions. He observed closely when the creature tilted his head, the faint twitch of a nostril, or the soft rumble of amusement in his chest. These were signs, Eli realized, not of weakness, but of opportunity. The Dragon King's mind, ancient and sharp, was curious. He seemed to enjoy the unexpected, the clever, and the heartfelt. But no warrior had yet approached him with these qualities in mind. One quiet evening, as the twin suns of Draconia dipped low in the sky, Eli practiced in the stables. He moved like the creatures he tended, imitating the flutter of wings, the swish of tails, and the playful antics of the dragon colts. He made faces, exaggerated movements, and tried small tricks to amuse himself, knowing that if he could make the creatures laugh, perhaps he could make the Dragon King laugh too. "Eli," called one of the older stable workers, a human named Joran. "What are you doing? You look foolish dancing like that." Eli paused, smiling. "I am learning," he said simply. "Learning how to connect with him." Joran shook his head. "Connect with the Dragon King? Boy, you are small. You have no sword, no power. None of the warriors even understand him, and you think a little dance will succeed?" Eli's eyes sparkled. Maybe that is why I have a chance. None of them understand. None of them try this. Days turned into weeks. Eli continued his work in the stables, his duties unchanged in appearance but different in heart. He paid attention to every gesture, every sound, every subtle sign from the Dragon King. He observed how the Dragon King interacted with his advisors, how he sometimes chuckled quietly at small mistakes, and how he seemed genuinely curious when something unexpected happened. The boy began to realize that humor, cleverness, and sincerity were as powerful in this realm as any weapon. One day, a warrior named Kalen arrived, larger than anyone Eli had seen before. Kalen's armor was carved from the metal of a collapsing star, glowing faintly as he moved. He carried a massive sword that hummed with energy, and he had the confidence of one who had conquered many worlds. The Dragon King's test, Eli knew, would be impossible for him. Eli hid behind a tall pillar as Kalen stepped forward, shouting, "I am the mightiest warrior in the galaxy. I will pass your test and claim the Crystal of Eternity." The Dragon King's eyes glimmered, not with fear, but with amusement. "Very well," he said, his voice deep and echoing. "Show me your strength." Kalen raised his sword and charged. He swung with all his might, sending sparks flying as the blade met the air. But the Dragon King was faster. With a single flap of his enormous wings, he sent Kalen tumbling backward. The great warrior stood, glaring, but even his confidence faltered. What is this test?" he demanded. Eli watched carefully. He saw how Kalen's mind was fixed on force and power. He saw how the Dragon King's gaze followed not just movement, but intention, and he realized more clearly than ever that this was a test of heart and mind, not muscles. That night, as Eli fed the silver dragon colts and brushed their scales, he made a plan. If he was to succeed, he would need to approach the Dragon King in a way no warrior had tried. He would not fight. He would not try to outsmart him with tricks or weapons. Instead, he would reach him through curiosity, humor, and sincerity. The next morning, Eli carefully gathered small items from the stables. He picked up shiny stones, colorful feathers, and small trinkets left by travelers. He arranged them in playful patterns and added small drawings, imitating some of the quirks he had noticed in the Dragon King's behavior. Each creation was meant to be amusing, simple, and clever. It was not impressive in the way a warrior's weapon would be, but it carried thought and personality. As he arranged these items near the palace gate, the Dragon King's golden eyes watched from above. Eli could feel the creature's attention. He made a small, playful dance, pretending to march like one of the dragon colts while balancing a shiny stone on his head. When he tripped, he exaggerated the fall, making it look silly but harmless. For a moment, the world was silent. Then a deep, rolling chuckle echoed across the plains. The Dragon King laughed, a genuine, hearty laugh that caused the ground to tremble slightly. Eli's heart leapt. He had captured the attention of the mighty ruler, not with weapons or strength, but with creativity and courage. Eli knew he had only taken the first step. The Dragon King was amused, yes, but the test had not yet truly begun. Warriors still watched from a distance, puzzled and amazed that a human boy could make the great Dragon King laugh. Many whispered that it must be a fluke, a trick of chance. Eli, however, understood that this was his opportunity. Over the next few days, Eli refined his approach. He experimented with small, clever gestures, mimicking the dragon colts, performing funny movements, and creating little puzzles and tricks that required thought to understand. Each time the Dragon King appeared to notice, he would tilt his head, watch closely, and sometimes let out a soft, amused rumble. Eli also observed the warriors. He noticed how some tried to force laughter with jokes, but the Dragon King saw through the act. Others attempted clever tricks, but they were too rigid, too focused on impressing rather than connecting. Eli realized that the key was authenticity. He did not need to perform perfectly or impress anyone else. He only needed to be genuine and thoughtful. One evening, Eli stayed late in the stables, brushing the silver dragon colts until their scales gleamed in the moonlight. He thought about the Dragon King, about the test, and about the warriors who had failed. "They are strong, yes," he whispered, "but they do not see him. They only see the challenge. I must see him." Eli's determination grew with each day. He practiced small tricks and playful gestures. But he also learned patience. He learned to observe and wait for the right moment, to notice the smallest cues from the Dragon King. The boy understood that a single gesture, performed at the right time, could mean the difference between failure and success. Finally, one morning, Eli felt ready. He carried a simple creation, a small, cleverly arranged scene of dragon colts, playing with stones and feathers, mimicking the quirks he had seen in the Dragon King's court. He added a small touch, a tiny imitation of the Dragon King himself, drawn on a flat stone, looking slightly exaggerated and humorous. Eli placed the creation near the palace gates and waited. When the Dragon King appeared, his golden eyes fell on the scene. He tilted his head, his gaze sharp and intelligent. Eli performed a small, exaggerated bow, then mimicked the dragon colts in a playful march. He stumbled slightly, just enough to look amusing, and added a small squeak that sounded like the colts' happy chatter. The Dragon King paused. For a long moment, he observed. Then, slowly, he let out a deep, rolling laugh, the kind of laugh that shook the air and echoed across the plains. Warriors froze, staring in disbelief. No one had ever made the Dragon King laugh with such simplicity and sincerity. Eli's heart raced. This was his chance. He knew that the test had begun, not with strength, not with weapons, but with laughter, cleverness, and courage, and he understood that his journey had only just started. That evening, as Eli returned to the stables, the Dragon King's laugh still rang in his ears. He smiled quietly to himself. The boy had discovered something powerful. Sometimes, the smallest and most unlikely hero could stand before the mightiest ruler and begin to change the course of history. Eli did not yet know what lay ahead. He did not yet know if he would pass the test entirely, but he felt hope, determination, and courage, the kind that no warrior, no matter how strong, could teach. And as he lay down to rest, listening to the soft sounds of the dragon colts around him, he whispered, "I will make him laugh again. I will understand him, and I will pass this test, not as a warrior, but as myself." The adventure had deepened, the stakes had grown higher, and Eli's journey into the heart of the Dragon King's world had only just begun. The morning sun rose over Draconia, spilling golden light across the crystal mountains and plains. Eli awoke in the stables, the events of the previous days fresh in his mind. He had managed to catch the Dragon King's attention and even made him laugh once, a feat that no warrior had ever accomplished. Yet Eli knew that one laugh alone would not be enough. The test was not just to amuse the Dragon King, it was to truly understand him. Eli began his day by feeding the dragon colts. He moved carefully, speaking softly to them, and brushing their silver scales until they shone. As he worked, he thought about the Dragon King's laughter, the way it had rolled like thunder yet felt warm and genuine. The boy realized that the key to the test was connection, not spectacle. It was not about impressing the Dragon King with tricks, but about reaching him with honesty, cleverness, and heart. Later that morning, a line of warriors arrived at the palace gates. Eli watched from behind a crystal pillar, as he had many times before. This group was different. They were confident, skilled, and determined. Some carried strange weapons, others had glowing shields, but all had the same flaw. They believed strength alone could win. One warrior, a large alien with 3 arms, tried to intimidate the Dragon King with a show of power, swinging his massive staff. Another, a humanoid with glowing armor, attempted a complex spell, hoping to dazzle the Dragon King. One by one, they failed. The mighty Dragon King moved with calm precision, avoiding each attack effortlessly. His eyes flickered with amusement, but he did not seem threatened. Warriors stumbled, grumbled, and eventually withdrew in frustration. Eli's heart raced. He understood what the warriors did not. The Dragon King's test was never about defeating him. It was about understanding him. Observing, learning, and thinking carefully had given Eli insight no warrior possessed. That afternoon, Eli prepared himself. He carefully arranged the small objects he had collected from the stables: shiny stones, colorful feathers, and small trinkets. Each one was chosen with thought, meant to resemble the quirks of the Dragon King's creatures. He placed them in playful patterns near the palace gates, imitating movements he had observed in the dragon colts. Then Eli did something he had never done before. He picked up a flat stone and drew a tiny picture of the Dragon King himself. The drawing was exaggerated, with a wide grin and large eyes. Eli smiled as he looked at it. "This is silly," he whispered to himself. "But maybe he will see the humor in it." Eli stepped forward, bowing low, then mimicked the dragon colt's playful movements. He stumbled slightly, just enough to be comical, and made small, squeaky noises, as if he were speaking in the colt's playful language. His heart pounded with nervous excitement. He did not know what would happen, but he knew he had to try. From the balcony above, the Dragon King watched. His golden eyes glimmered with curiosity. Eli could feel the intensity of his gaze. He held his breath, waiting, hoping that his small gestures would resonate with the mighty ruler. Then it happened. The Dragon King tilted his head slightly, his eyes narrowing in focus. A deep rumble started in his chest, growing louder until it became a full, rolling laugh. It was warm, rich, and true, nothing like the laughter the warriors had ever earned. Eli's chest swelled with excitement. For the first time, he felt that he had done something meaningful in this strange and powerful world. The warriors froze, staring in disbelief. How could a small human boy, carrying nothing but cleverness and heart, succeed where they had all failed? Eli did not notice them. He was focused entirely on the Dragon King, watching his expression change from curiosity to amusement. Encouraged by the success, Eli took another small step. He performed a little dance, hopping from stone to stone, imitating the dragon colts with exaggerated gestures. He added small, funny faces and gestures, exaggerating the quirks he had observed in the Dragon King himself. The creature's laughter deepened, shaking the palace gates and echoing across the plains. "Interesting," the Dragon King rumbled, his voice echoing. "You are different from the others." Eli bowed respectfully. "I only want to understand you, Your Majesty," he said softly. "I do not seek glory, treasure, or power. I just wish to learn, to connect, and to make you smile." The Dragon King's golden eyes studied him. He spread his massive wings and descended slowly, landing in front of the boy. The ground trembled with the weight of his presence. For a moment, Eli felt small, overwhelmed by the immense size and power of the creature. But he remembered the laughter, the warm rumble that had greeted his first gesture. He stood tall, meeting the Dragon King's gaze without fear. "You are brave," the Dragon King said, his voice deep and rolling, "and clever. Most who come here are either proud or foolish. You are neither. You are curious, sincere, and not afraid to be yourself." Eli smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and nervousness. "I just want to make you laugh again," he said, "and to understand what you see in the world." The Dragon King's eyes glimmered, as if seeing the boy more clearly than anyone else ever had. "Very well," he said. "Then show me. Make me laugh again, not with tricks, but with your heart." Eli thought quickly. He took a small feather from his pocket and twirled it in the air, pretending it was a dancing creature. He added small squeaks and exaggerated gestures, mimicking the quirks of the palace dragons. Then he tripped softly, falling in a playful way, and pointed to a shiny stone as if it were a magical object performing a spell. The Dragon King's laugh echoed across the plains, richer and louder than before. His wings flared in delight, and the air itself seemed to hum with joy. Eli realized that he had done something remarkable, not by strength, skill, or clever tricks, but by connecting with the Dragon King in a way no one else could. For the first time, the boy felt that he was more than just a stable worker. He was a bridge between humans and this magnificent being, proving that courage, creativity, and sincerity could achieve what brute strength could not. As the days passed, Eli continued his efforts. He created little performances, clever arrangements, and humorous gestures, each designed to reflect what he had observed in the Dragon King's behavior. He practiced patience, learning when to act and when to wait, observing the slightest twitch of the Dragon King's eyes or the soft rumble in his chest. Each day, the Dragon King's laughter grew warmer, deeper, and more frequent. Warriors watched in disbelief as a small human boy, with no weapons or armor, continued to gain the respect and attention of the mighty ruler. Some began to understand that this was not a fluke. Eli had found a path that no warrior could follow. One evening, Eli noticed a pattern. The Dragon King seemed to enjoy clever imitations of himself more than anything else. Inspired, Eli prepared a small scene for the next day. He arranged dragon colts in playful positions, added stones and feathers, and placed a drawing of the Dragon King in a funny, exaggerated pose. He practiced movements, gestures, and squeaks until they were just right, playful, clever, and sincere. The next morning, he presented the scene at the palace gates. The Dragon King appeared, his golden eyes narrowing with curiosity. Eli performed his gestures, mimicking the creatures, stumbling humorously and pointing to the drawing of the Dragon King. The Dragon King paused. Then slowly he laughed, a deep, rolling laugh that shook the plains and filled the air with warmth. "You have learned much," he said, his eyes twinkling. "You understand that laughter and joy are as powerful as strength. You see the world in a way no warrior ever has." Eli bowed, his heart swelling with pride. "Thank you, Your Majesty," he said softly. "I only wanted to understand and to make you laugh." The Dragon King studied him, then nodded. "You are clever, brave, and kind. You have passed the first true part of my test, not by defeating me, but by connecting with me. Most warriors never reach this stage, most never even try." Eli could hardly believe it. He had faced the Dragon King, not with swords, strength, or skill, but with heart, cleverness, and humor, and he had succeeded where countless warriors had failed. That evening, as Eli returned to the stables, he felt a mixture of excitement and humility. The journey was far from over. The Dragon King's test was not complete, but Eli now knew that courage, sincerity, and creativity could achieve what brute force never could. He settled down among the dragon colts, brushing their scales and feeding them, reflecting on what had happened. The laughter of the Dragon King still echoed in his mind, a reminder of the impossible that had become possible. Eli whispered to himself, "I will continue. I will learn more. I will make him laugh again. And I will pass this test, not as a warrior, but as myself." The adventure was far from over. The Dragon King's test was not just about laughter. It was about understanding, empathy, and the courage to be oneself. Eli had taken the first real step, and the journey ahead promised even greater challenges and discoveries. The sun rose slowly over Draconia, casting long shadows across the golden plains and sparkling crystal mountains. Eli awoke in the stables, his mind racing with anticipation. This day would be different. Today, he would face the Dragon King not as a hidden observer or playful performer, but as someone ready to complete the test entirely. He had learned much in the weeks past, the patterns of the Dragon King, the gestures that drew his laughter, and the patience required to truly connect with such a magnificent being. Eli began his morning as usual, tending to the dragon colts. He brushed their scales until they gleamed in the sunlight, whispered soft words of encouragement, and played small games to keep them active. But today, he felt a new confidence. The laughter of the Dragon King still rang in his mind, a sound both powerful and warm. He knew that he had one chance to make a lasting impression, and he intended to seize it. As he walked toward the palace gates, he noticed the familiar line of warriors gathered, each more impressive than the last. There was Kalen, the giant alien warrior who had failed spectacularly, a few smaller but clever humanoids, and even some warriors who had returned, hoping for a second chance. Their expressions were mixed with awe and skepticism as they saw Eli, the small human boy, walking confidently toward the Dragon King. "Do you think he can succeed?" whispered one of the returning warriors to another. "Impossible," the other replied. "He has no armor, no weapon, no experience. He is just a boy." Eli ignored the whispers. He had never relied on weapons or strength, and he never would. His power lay in understanding, creativity, and courage, qualities that no warrior had fully grasped. At the palace gates, the Dragon King descended slowly from his balcony, his wings casting a shadow across the plains. The golden eyes of the mighty ruler fixed on Eli, and a deep rumble emanated from his chest. Eli took a deep breath and bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "I have come to finish what I began. I do not seek glory, treasure, or power. I only wish to connect with you and understand your world." The Dragon King studied him. "Most who come here seek only power or fame," he said. "Few understand the meaning of my test. You are different. Proceed." Eli smiled faintly. He set down a small arrangement of stones, feathers, and other trinkets he had collected. But this time, it was more than a playful display. It was a story. Each piece represented a lesson he had learned: patience, observation, courage, and sincerity. The dragon colts were represented in playful poses, each one interacting with the others in small acts of kindness and cleverness. At the center, a small drawing of the Dragon King himself smiled, exaggerated yet affectionate. Eli stepped back and performed a series of movements he had perfected over weeks. He mimicked the dragon colts, stumbled humorously at times, and added clever gestures that reflected his understanding of the Dragon King's quirks. But this performance was different from the previous ones. It carried intention, thought, and respect. Every action was deliberate, designed to show empathy, intelligence, and heart. The Dragon King watched silently, his golden eyes narrowing as he studied every gesture. For a long moment, the plains were silent except for the soft clatter of the trinkets Eli had arranged. Then slowly, the deep rumble of the Dragon King's chest began. It grew into a rich, rolling laugh, the kind that shook the ground and sent shivers of awe through the watching warriors. "You have learned," the Dragon King said, his voice like distant thunder, "not just to amuse me, but to understand me. You see the world with clarity and honesty. You are clever, brave, and kind. Most who come before me fail because they see only themselves. You see others." Eli felt his heart soar. The Dragon King's words were unlike any praise he had ever received. They were not about strength, glory, or fame. They were about connection, understanding, and courage. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Eli said softly. "I have learned from watching you and from my work here. I hope I can continue to learn, and maybe, in some way, help others understand you too." The Dragon King's eyes glimmered, and he lowered his massive head closer to the boy. "You have passed the final part of my test," he said. "Not by defeating me, not by power, not by trickery, but by seeing with your heart. You are the first human, and perhaps the first being, to do so in centuries." Warriors watched in stunned silence. Many had tried and failed, believing that power and skill could earn them favor. Yet here was a small human boy, with no weapon, no armor, no special training, standing before the Dragon King and succeeding through courage, cleverness, and sincerity. The Dragon King continued, "You are brave, human. Your mind is sharp, your heart pure. I will reward you not with gold or weapons, but with trust and knowledge. You will serve as a bridge between humans and my world, showing that understanding and courage can achieve what force never can." Eli bowed deeply, overwhelmed with gratitude. "I will do my best, Your Majesty," he said. "I promise to honor your trust." The Dragon King's wings unfurled, stretching wide across the golden plains. "You have already begun to honor it," he said. "Remember this: the greatest strength lies not in the body, but in the mind and the heart. You have shown that humans are capable of greatness beyond what many believe. Others will doubt you as they doubt themselves, but you have proven that courage and sincerity can overcome the impossible." The boy's eyes sparkled. For years, humans had been considered small, weak, and insignificant by other civilizations. But Eli had shown that even the smallest being, with courage and cleverness, could achieve what giants could not. This was a triumph not only for him, but for all humans. Over the following days, Eli continued his work with the Dragon King. He learned about the creatures of Draconia, the ways of the court, and the ancient wisdom that the Dragon King had accumulated over centuries. He became a guide, teacher, and friend, showing visiting humans and other beings how to approach the mighty ruler with respect, curiosity, and sincerity. Warriors and visitors came from across the galaxies, curious to witness the boy who had passed the Dragon King's test. Many tried to challenge the Dragon King in the old ways, only to fail spectacularly. Others watched Eli, learning from his patience, creativity, and courage. The story of the small human boy who made the Dragon King laugh spread across worlds, inspiring others to see beyond strength and skill and embrace cleverness, heart, and understanding. Eli never sought fame or glory. He continued to work in the stables, tend to the creatures, and learn from the Dragon King, yet he became a legend, not for fighting, not for conquest, but for showing the power of courage, empathy, and humor. One evening, as the twin suns of Draconia set in brilliant shades of gold and orange, Eli stood before the Dragon King. "I have learned much from you, Your Majesty," he said. "I hope I can continue to help others see the value in understanding and kindness." The Dragon King lowered his massive head, golden eyes twinkling. "You have done more than that, human. You have shown all who watch that true strength comes from the heart. You are clever, brave, and worthy of trust. Remember this lesson, and carry it with you always." Eli nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment he had never known. He had started as a small stable boy, overlooked and underestimated. Now he stood as a bridge between humans and a mighty civilization, proof that even the smallest among us can achieve greatness. As he walked back to the stables, the dragon colts nuzzled him playfully, and he laughed softly. The adventure had begun in small steps, but it had led him to a place of honor, respect, and understanding. Eli knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that courage, creativity, and heart would always guide him. That night, under the sparkling stars of Draconia, Eli looked up at the Dragon King, who perched majestically on a high balcony. He whispered, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will continue to learn to laugh and to share what I have discovered." The Dragon King's golden eyes gleamed in response, and a soft rumble of approval rolled through the air. In that moment, Eli understood something profound. The greatest heroes are not always the strongest or the most skilled. Sometimes they are the ones who see the world with curiosity, kindness, and courage, and who have the heart to make a difference. And so, the small human stable boy became a legend. Not for the battles he fought or the enemies he defeated, but for the laughter he brought, the lessons he learned, and the courage he inspired. Across galaxies, the story of Eli and the Dragon King would be told for generations, reminding everyone that even the smallest heart can achieve greatness when guided by cleverness, sincerity, and bravery. Draconia, with its golden plains, crystal mountains, and mighty Dragon King, would never forget the human who had dared to laugh, understand, and change the course of history.